and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Rchard, I'll be your host this evening, and tonight's episode is going to be called From Touchdowns to Card Games. Now, I know why it's called that, and you will know why it's called that, because joining me tonight is a gentleman by the name of Chris Kluwe. Now, Chris Kluwe has gone all the way from the professional American football circuit to being involved in things like World of Warcraft to his latest kind of project, which is to have a game, his own card game that he's designed called Twilight of the Gods. So, hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure's all mine. Believe me. I've been tracking the project with some interest. Now, for people who haven't listened before, the reason that we do this is because there's quite simply not enough podcasts out there about board games. One of the things we like to do on We're Not Wizards when we have a guest on is we just like to find out a little bit about how their past, a little bit about the present, and then we want to find out a little bit about the future. So, obviously, your professional career was more on the field than in front of a table. But how is it you actually got involved in kind of board games, Chris?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was a nerd long before I was a professional football player. I grew up playing the NES, playing Magic, tried to play D&D and Shadowrun with my friends, but none of us ever wanted to GM, so the campaigns never really got off the ground. And I love playing games. Whatever type of game it happens to be, and that's just something I've done ever since I was a kid. And I think I first got into Magic with Revised, I want to say. So back in like 94, 95, something like that. And been playing games all my life. Did
you build up like quite a large collection of Magic?
Oh yeah, no, I so I played from Revised all the way up through Mirage, and had a ton of like dual lands, and looking back, cards that are like, wow, I really should have kept a hold of those cards. But
is there a bit of card loss regret then? Is it kind of stuff that you kind of like?
Yeah, but well, the thing was though is that so it was me and my brother. We played a ton, and then when we both stopped playing, one of our cousins was really getting into Magic, so we just sent him like this entire like box full of Magic cards, and so he was pretty stoked because he got access to all these really cool cards. But,
how long was it before you kind of started cursing his name because you realized he had a whole pile of cards that were completely decent?
Well, I mean, obviously looking back, it's like, yeah, I probably should have held on to him. But at the same time, I'm glad he got use out of them and, was able to play with them. Because I know that there's the collector value to this stuff, but at the same time, like I like playing the games. And, I want people to actually play with the cards. And if I'm not playing with it, well, then someone else should have the opportunity to do so.
So did you keep the cardboard going while you were, professional footballer then?
Yeah, so I actually got back into Magic, I want to say about my third or fourth year in the league when Commander came out. Because it was something where, because I still had our cousin actually sent back a bunch of the cards. Unfortunately, none of the dual lands, but those didn't make it.
It's like that the Black Lotus or the Black kind of mysteriously disappeared as well.
Yeah, but no. So I had all these old cards, and I was actually in Minnesota. I played for the Vikings. And the local gaming group that I was playing War Machine with, tabletop miniature game. They had just gotten into Commander, and so one day they were playing it, and I stopped by the store, and I was like, whoa, hey, what's this? Like, this doesn't look like normal Magic. And so they started explaining the rules for Commander to me, and I was like, okay, this makes me excited, and I want to play Magic again, because now I can go back and get all these old cards, and I don't have to worry about spending $1,000 for booster packs to keep up with Modern.
You probably got other guys in the league saying, so what did you buy? It's like, come on, let me show you the stereo I've got. It's got 17 speakers, it fits 15 CDs. It's like, Chris, what did you do? What did you get with your league bonus and your latest record kind of bonus check?
Yeah,
look at this folder.
Yeah, check out these Commander cards.
check out these bits of cardboard, and the guys are like, Right.
Well,
Okay.
it was funny too because Wizards of the Coast they actually sent me some Commander stuff like to the locker room. It was great, so I unpacked it.
Did you kind of drop hints as you went by? Did you kind of did you go when you scored a conversion or touchdown? Did you go to the camera, lift up your shirt, and it had Wizards of the Coast send me Magic cards now, and they were like, we've been sponsored.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I wish. Yeah.
No.
Unfortunately, I didn't really score any touchdowns or anything because I was actually the one person who did use his foot on the ball because I was the punter, which I'm well aware has a different meaning in Europe.
Yes.
But yeah. So essentially, when it was fourth down for the offense and they were doing horrible and we needed to give the ball away to the other team, I'm the guy that came in and kicked it to them.
You kicked it as far down the field as possible, so they were starting off as far down close to their end zone. See?
Exactly.
Technical.
Yep, there you go. Did your research?
I've think some research. Last time we used to have back when I was very young, and there was only actually 5 channels on the TV. They used to put American football on all the time, so you used to stay up and watch it kind of later and later and later, and you kind of really, really got into it. But then there was the John Madden games on the Mega Drive. So I played that for, a long time. So, now that I've made a complete idiot of myself by not knowing what position you played in. But
it's fine. no one cares about the punter. That's nothing new.
No, it's fine. But I mean, that ties in nicely to some of the things that you're doing in the Kickstarter campaign, which we will certainly talk about and come back to. Did you stay with Magic, or did you stay with the card games, or have you kind of gone into other board games as well as time goes on?
Yeah, so played Commander for quite a bit. I think I recently stopped playing about a year ago because we moved. I still have my deck. It's a Mariki Rebarrett deck. That it's not a super control-y deck. It's more I try to win via fun win conditions. Yeah. That very Rube Goldberg-esque. It requires 5 different cards for me to win because that's it's easy to make a permission deck or a one-turn kill deck, but it's where's the fun in that? You're not
I've kind of seen that. I've kind of seen that where somebody says, I've seen it at the local club where you got 2 guys facing off with each other, and the guy just manages to draw the right cards, and he goes okay, I've got this, I've got this, I've got that, I've got this, I've got that, I've got that, and you're dead. And
right? Yeah, exactly.
What's the actual fun of that?
Right, and so we the guys that I play with, we actually played the Game of Thrones card game quite a bit, which is it's a fun game, but at the same time everyone always leaves angry because it's just rage-inducing. Every play. So I think they just released version 2.0 of it, which they fixed some of the problems that were in the first version, but it's still very much rage-inducing. No one's happy, even the person who wins. So that one we only play in small doses, and then various board games. So we have a copy of Risk Legacy that we've gone through quite a bit. Splendor is a lot of fun. I love that game.
That is a nice game, and it's really inexpensive to pick up as well, and it's one of these games that every time somebody mentions it, I'm like, I need to write this down. Play Splendor, because I've not played it myself, but every single person that says it kind of loves it. I mean, for people listening at home that maybe haven't played Splendor before, do you want to give a quick rundown? Because one of the things we like to do at We're Not Wizards is to kind of give people a quick rundown of maybe games that are out there that they might want to touch on.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a really simple concept. Essentially there's 5 different colors of gems. I think it's diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and opals. And your goal is to acquire these various mines and shipping routes and stuff like that. And you do that by spending gems to acquire them, and then those kind of act as your resources that give you more gems.
All right.
And it's all just basic color matching. But there's some strategy involved in this one resource might cost you 5 gems, whereas this other resource might only cost you 3 gems. But you may not have the gems to get it yet, so you have to then take them from the bank, and other people can try to screw you over by hoarding certain resources. So it's very simple to pick up and play. I taught it to my kids. They're 8 and 6. They both know how to play. Yeah, so it's super easy to learn. But then there is some complexity and some depth to it, to where because the eventual goal of the game is to get 15 points. So the first first one to 15 points wins.
Yeah.
And the resources start giving you points as you get to the higher levels.
Oh, right.
So,
okay.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. I would highly recommend checking it out because, like I said, it's super easy to pick up, and then you can teach it to just about anyone.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, anything else that you're playing at the moment as well? Anything that's... I mean, obviously you're concentrating on your own little bit.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you've maybe seen in the last year, the last couple of months that you would maybe like to get your hands on or get to the table yourself?
We played Power Grid recently, which is a really great game.
Yes.
I love that game. That's it's like a better version of Monopoly.
There's a point to it, and there's not the random chance of dice as well.
Right. Yeah, it's very much trying to figure out, risk versus reward, and then also what are these other people doing versus what do I want to do?
Yeah.
Do I have enough, money / resources to do what I want to do? Can I mess with someone else's plans? So that's a really fun one.
And it's all about controlling these resources and kind of it's almost like building up a chain, building up your own little machine. The whole point of it is it's a Euro game, so it's all about kind of scoring points at the end of the day. But it can mess with your mind because you've got to decide if you're going to get resources like coal or if you're going to get other resources that you can use. All about kind of getting your points, building up your power as well. It's good fun. I played it a couple of times, and I'm a man of very small brain, so I always lost. Everyone else is like at 40 points, and I'm sitting back at like 5.
Yeah. Because you also have to balance too. Like, okay, I want to buy that really expensive power plant, but I need to save money to expand out into other cities so that way I can make more money. So it's this really neat kind of like balancing act where one turn you might want to just focus on resources, and then the next turn you might want to just focus on expansion.
I mean, as a quick aside, I mean, have you in your process of trying to put together your own game? Have you tried to play more games, trying to kind of pick up ideas and stuff like that?
So that's actually one of the things with Twilight of the Gods is that because me, my brother, and then our 2 other friends were the 4 people behind it. We've played so many games throughout the course of our life that like one of the things I wanted to do with Twilight of the Gods was fix some of the problems that I saw in like trading card, living card game type games.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like as we mentioned earlier, one of the big things you see in Magic a lot and in stuff like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh is that all too often it's one person playing the game and then the other person is just forced to sit there and watch.
Yeah.
And like that's not fun. I mean,
No.
the game should be a game is where everyone is playing. Like everyone has a chance to affect the outcome. And if it's a one-turn kill or infinite extra turns or permission deck, like okay, one person's playing the game, but for that other person, they're unlikely to want to play it again because they don't feel like they got to do anything. So for us that was our overriding design philosophy is everyone gets to play with their toys. And so no, and I mean it sounds kind of silly.
No, it doesn't, because I can see it, because what you want is there is nothing worse than having an imbalance of a game where you have somebody that has, even if they got 5 minutes more experience than you playing the game, then they're doing stuff which is affecting things which you have no idea how you're affecting things. You end up sitting there through like a 15-minute turn while they've got like an infinity machine kind of going on saying, okay, so this gives me this, which gives me this, which gives me the next thing, which gives me this. And as I say, like we said at the beginning with Magic, you have lost and you've done absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, exactly. You just sat there watching someone else move cardboard around, and you're like, well, why did I even bother to play this?
It's like Garth Elgar. I'm having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So for us, that was actually one of the big things from all our experience of playing games and just playing all these different types of games is trying to recognize, okay, where are the situations where it's fun for everyone, no matter if you win or lose. While how can we still make it compelling enough to where people do want to win? because there are cooperative type games where it's like, okay, we're all working together to try to win, and there are games where it's like, okay, cool, it's more not casual, because I hate the word like hardcore and casual, because there's so many different layers to games in that, but there definitely are games where it feels like, okay, there's not a lot of depth to this game. It's exactly. fairly easy to master. Exactly. Whereas we wanted ours to be, okay, you can pick this up and play it and have fun and have a good experience, but if you want to go diving down into those layers, then we've created this enormous rabbit hole for you to go down into.
What made you decide to kind of design a game?
So for me, the overriding motivation to make what ended up being Twilight of the Gods was, when I played Magic, the thing I absolutely hated most of all when it happened was getting mana screwed, right? Yeah. You draw your cards and you're like, oh cool, I'm going to get to play, and then you never draw any lands. And it's like, this sucks, because you have all these plans and you want to do all these things, but due to just the simple fact that your deck didn't give you the right cards, you weren't able to play the game.
Yeah. I was playing Pokemon with my son, my middle son, on Sunday there, and I got 3 level 1 Pokemons. I got no basics. I had 1 basic in my hand who was something like a tea leaf or something like that.
Right, yeah.
I put him down and my son drew like a grey ninja. My guy had like about 40 hit points. He drew like his green ninja, attached an energy, next round attached another energy, and went, bam, you're dead. And it's like, we'll put another card in. It's like, I can't. I've no basic Pokemon left. Yeah. I'm out of the game, and that was me. I was kind of lost. So
yeah, exactly. And so that's one of the things, and you see that happen so often in these kind of games where it's like through no fault of the player's own, like they can deck build, a deck that has the right proportions of creatures to resources, etc. And for whatever reason, they don't draw the right resources, or they only draw resources, which is another way of getting mana screwed. Where it's like, great, I have all the mountains in the world.
I've got all the money, but I've not got a supermarket kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that to me was one of the big things, because it gets back to that basic design philosophy of everyone should get a chance to play with their toys, and unfortunately, there's too much RNG there to where it's like, okay, you could be a good player. You could have the best strategies in the world, but if that happens, then it doesn't matter. Like, your skill no longer matters in this game. Okay. And so that's where I came up with the idea of the resource system for the game, where essentially it's, in order to get resources, you don't play them from your own hand. You actually have to trade with your opponent. So there's this very interesting thing we've seen during the play testing, where generally for the first 4 turns or so, people will be very cooperative because they want to trade for resources so they can get their own cards out. And then right around turn 5, it's like a switch gets flipped. And then it's like, well, no, I don't want to trade with you anymore. I'm going to try to kill you.
Exactly. Tables get flipped.
Yeah, exactly. So
people start threatening each other.
Right, yeah. So it's this cool melding of cooperation and competition, and that was also something that I wanted the game to have, is kind of like almost this meta commentary where that so often we cooperate, and then we start rubbing up against each other. Those borders start getting really close, and then now all of a sudden it becomes competition. Yeah. And so that was pretty much the genesis of it. Was I hated getting mana screwed.
So how close from the sitting around the desk with the white bits of paper and the biro pen, writing down stuff, and the final product? How close are the two? Is there a massive difference in the kind of the basic design, or has the game completely changed, or have you kind of said, well, have you kind of got what your original idea was, basically?
Yeah, so the basic ideas are there. So when we originally came up with it, so I came up with kind of the ideas for the mechanics, and then I recruited my brother to help me out because he's really good at breaking things. Which, no joke, if you ever want to design a game, make sure you know someone who's really good at breaking stuff. Yeah, because they will find the things in your game that make it unfun, and then it's up to you to decide, okay, is this intended, or do we need to figure out a way to fix this so that it doesn't happen? Because
is this a history of him breaking things? I mean, is this
to
we toys and
Yeah, growing up, we didn't always get along, but
it's like well, it's bound to happen, but
yeah, exactly. But no, it was one of those things where I knew, okay, this is a strength of his. Like, he's really good at finding, the min-maxing of theory crafting into, okay, how can I make the game suck for my opponent and really good for me? And that's like, I knew I wanted him to be involved in it because I wanted to make sure that when people picked up and played the game, they didn't have that experience where it's like, oh, my opponent's taking infinite extra turns and I'm just sitting here. Yeah. This really blows. or my opponent created a deck where it's impossible for me to trade resources with them and they're still winning the game. Wow, that sucks. Why would I ever play this game? So, just stuff like that. And then from there, we kind of iterated the basic concepts into more workable forms, in that, like, at the very start, it was very rough, right? We had, essentially printed out white pieces of paper in magic sleeves. Like, that's what we were going with.
That's what John Gilmore says he does. He says he's got a large collection of post-it notes, white paper, and biros that he uses on a regular basis,
Oh yeah, no, and it's great too because it allows you to just kind of change things on the fly. So you come up with your basic idea, you come up with your basic card set, and then you have to start playing it. You have to start putting the cards on the table and seeing, okay, is this working the way we want it to work? And then there were situations where like for some of the faction mechanics in the game, for a long time 3 of the 4 factions felt really good. They felt like they had their own identity, but then the 4th faction was just like, God, this just doesn't feel good. Like it doesn't feel like it's its own faction, that it's its own thing. And so it took us probably about 3 or 4 months to figure out a way to make it feel like its own thing. And then once we did it, we're like, okay, this is good. Like this now feels like it's a really cool thing to have in there. So yeah, just constantly working on making sure that things were working, and then after that making sure that things were balanced. So one of the really neat things that we found during playtesting, once we got the game to pretty much a polished, semi-finished state, was that 90 to 95% of our games will end with a 1-turn swing, where it's either either you won that turn or your opponent was winning next turn. And so to me that's a really good sign, because it's it makes it a fun game, and it makes it one that people will come back to and say, man, if I just made that one decision a little bit differently, I probably would have won. Let's play again. I want to see if I can beat you this time. Because that's fun.
It turns into a battle, doesn't it? I mean, you want a battle. It's a card battle.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a battle.
It's not polite here, is it? I mean, this is all about this is all about taking people out, but you should have the right, if somebody flicks you in the eye, you can flick them in the nose right back the next turn, and not have to wait 5 turns to do it.
Right.
Do you want to give us a general overview of the game itself?
Sure. Yeah, that'd probably be good for the listeners.
No. Let's keep it. Let them guess. Give them a little bit. It's a card game, guys. Let's move on.
Yeah, just check it out. It'll be fine. Trust me. So Twilight of the Gods. It's set in the 5th century AD, and it's right around the time when the Roman Empire is collapsing. And so, as the Roman Empire is collapsing and kind of these other kingdoms around the world are collapsing, the pantheons are collapsing with them. So you have like all these, pantheons from the dawn of time, like with all these different gods that, belief is fading away from the world. Like the, people, because there's such upheaval and destruction, people have stopped believing in their gods. And so the gods can kind of feel like the upcoming dark ages pressing down on them. And they're like, oh crap, we need, like, not all of us are going to survive. So essentially you are playing as a god, and then your opponent is also playing as a god, and you are battling against each other to see which of you is going to survive into the upcoming dark ages, because there's only so much power to go around, and it's not enough for all of you. so it's this neat little concept of it's a period of change, of tumultuous upheaval, and do you have what it takes to survive this? Can you outwit this other person and survive into this upcoming world? So we're calling it an expandable card game. Yeah, we can't call it a living card game because apparently Fantasy Flight has copyrighted that.
Get out.
But if you're familiar with living card games, we are exactly the same as a living card game. So
you copyrighted the name living. Yeah, we can do that.
No,
we have lawyers that can do that. They can do the old, copywriting living thing. Well, can
Right.
you use a different word? You can you can use any word you want as long as it's not living.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we're an expandable card game.
Okay.
But what that means for those unfamiliar with it is that unlike like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, those are collectible card games where you don't know what you're getting in a booster pack. In a living type card game or expandable card game, you know exactly what you're getting in the box or in the pack each time you buy it. So they tend to be much less expensive than collectible card games because you're not trying to chase like mythic rares or the super powerful cards that only appear like once in every 30 booster packs or something like that.
So it's like your Netrunners or your Ashes of the Phoenixborn, where you go out and you buy this particular expansion and you open it up and you get your 50 cards and you've got a list on the back and that is exactly what you've got, so you know exactly what you're getting in the pack, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And
cool.
Then and what we're doing with the core set is that it's it's going to come with 200 cards, and then those 200 cards are separated into 4 50-card pre-made decks that have all been balanced against each other. So that way, like if you and your friends each want to, throw in to buy one box, you can all pick a deck and then just pull it right out of the box and play against each other. And then if you decide you want to get into deck building, then you're like, oh, cool. Now I might need some other cards, but I know if I buy this box, I'm getting all these cards, and I don't have to buy like 50 boxes to do it. At most, you would have to buy 3 boxes because we have a limit of 3 of any one particular card in your deck. And then the other thing that we're doing actually too is that so I anticipate like the super competitive people are the ones that are going to want to buy the 3 boxes right away, so that way they have access to every single card, 3 of every single card.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do with future mini expansions and like big expansions is that we're going to be filling in that core set. So if you're willing to wait, then 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, if you buy one of everything, so like one core set, one big expansion, one big expansion, etc., etc., you'll have a full set of cards. Like you don't have to buy multiples of anything.
That's pretty cool.
Because I'm also a gamer. Like
exactly. It's like it's like you're not going to be going out spending money and money and money. And to be honest, that's what's put me off kind of like the collectible side of things. Is I loved Marvel Dice Masters because I like the dice and I like rolling them, but you ended up like spending $50 to get like 5 cards and 5 dice that you really really kind of wanted, whereas on something like say Ashes of the Phoenixborn is you buy the expansion deck. I know everything that I've got in there. I know that my deck's kind of pre-made, but I can muck around with it kind of later on. So if that's the way you're going, then I think it kind of otherwise you can kind of come across a little bit kind of
greedy.
Yeah, I don't want to say greedy. Well, I am going to say greedy, but
I would
you know how
greedy.
these things work. Even on like say the terms of lovely Magic or any of the collectible games, there is always a tendency. They're not called rare cards or ultra rare cards because you open the packet and there's 5 of them there. They're there because they encourage you to buy kind of more cards. If people know that they can complete the set, then they'll go. Obviously, it's kind of more encouraging for me to go out and think, well, actually, if I start on this, I know I can finish it as well. I'm not going to constantly be kind of throwing money at it in order to get kind of what I want. The factions, you've mentioned factions. So, what are the factions about, Chris?
Yeah, so the we currently have 4 factions in the game, and for Twilight of the Gods, our factions are actually based on different philosophies. So our one of our factions, and they're also color coded, so that way it's easy to tell them apart when they're on the field. So our red faction is aggression. That's kind of if you want to straightforward hit someone in the mouth like fireballs, stuff like that. Yeah,
Wednesday night you're bored. You want to
right, exactly. Yeah, you're gonna want to play aggression, and then our blue faction is negotiation. So if you want to be more subtle, negotiations creatures tend to be individually weaker than the other factions, but they have a lot more ways to spring traps on their opponents and to do things that kind of mess with them. And then our brown faction is sanctuary. So that's more the I'm going to fort up. I'm going to build my walls. I can heal myself a lot. I'm going to take some hits in the early game because my creatures require more resources to get out. But once I acquire those resources, then I get out some of the biggest creatures in the game. So for more the defensively oriented player. And then the last one is mysticism, which is kind of like, here's these neat effects, like strange little combos that you can do, oftentimes by doing damage to yourself, by destroying your own cards, that allows you to do something else. So it's because one of the other big things in this game is that your life in the game is your deck. So when you take damage, cards start flipping off your deck, and once your deck runs out, you're dead. So you can draw as many cards as you want. Yeah. Like that'll give you hand options, but you're also dealing damage to yourself. Because that was one of the other things that drove me nuts about Magic is like some person who's drawing 30 cards or whatever, and it's like, well, what's the downside?
And he's just like, right? Like, what? It's like, I don't know if you're going to kill me with attacks or you're going to try and kill me with paper cuts.
Right, yeah. So that's one of the things in our game is that so you take damage. When you take damage, cards flip off from your life stack and your discard stack, but we have lots of ways to restore those cards back to your life stack. So the other person can choose to attack either your life stack or your discard stack, and if they attack your discard stack, it removes those cards from the game permanently. So there's always this constant weighing, meaningful choice aspect of, well, do I hit them for their current life and try to burn them down before they can heal, or do I start whittling down their max life and just take it away permanently? And it gives us a lot of cool things we can do in that design space, to where it's you're going to have a ton of options in terms of a player. It's up to you to identify what's the best option for any particular scenario, and it will never be the same choice twice.
That sounds really, really, really interesting. You've obviously got the campaign running on Kickstarter. What made you decide to go down the Kickstarter route?
So our publisher, Victory Point Games, they've run a couple, actually I think 4 or 5 successful Kickstarters before this, and we knew it was something where it allows us to gauge the interest in the game. So that way, for them as a publisher standpoint, they don't want to print out 20,000 copies if there's only 4,000 people who are going to buy the game. Then the game just fails because they've spent too much money, and we won't be able to do any expansions or anything. Yeah. But it allows us to also kind of build that fan awareness, and people who want to back it and who want to be a part of this world, they can get some exclusive stuff that you can't get from just buying the normal set. So as I said earlier, one of the things is in this game, you actually are playing as a god, and you do get a specific god card that represents you on the battlefield. Like that, and that also determines your deck construction. Like certain gods require a minimum amount of cards of their color, and that number can be either 10 cards from your color, or it can go all the way up to 40 cards from your color. And the decks are 50 cards. So it's one of those things that we've been able to kind of nudge people in different directions in terms of deck building. And then for the Kickstarter, the Kickstarter exclusives are Elder Gods. So Cthulhu, Dagon, Azathoth, all the HP Lovecraft.
Just all the good guys. Just all the guys.
Yeah, exactly.
When those guys turn up at your house party, then you might as well fuck all the fire department.
Oh yeah. Good times are about to be had.
Who invited Dagon? Hide the cats.
Yeah, and they're actually their own faction. They're the Madness faction. So we don't we don't have any Madness cards yet, but we will be releasing them later on. So like at a certain and the Madness faction is designed to pull from all the different colors because they're Madness, right? You know, it doesn't matter like what philosophy you pursue. If you're a devotee to Cthulhu, like
I'll take anything as long as it's got tentacles.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Old squid face, like that's who you're going for.
Exactly. Don't mention calamari in front of him. He doesn't like that.
Yeah. So, but that's one of the Kickstarter exclusives, and so essentially what we're doing is that we're making those ones not tournament legal. Like they're still balanced against everything else, but they're not tournament legal because they are limited access. You have to be a Kickstarter backer to get them. But if you back the Kickstarter and get them, it now gives you a different option to play, with your friends. Like it's like, oh, they're like, oh, cool, you have you have Dagon out there. Like, how did you get Dagon?
Well, I was in there from the very, very beginning.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's it's one of those things where it's like it's bragging rights.
It's like a hipster thing. It's like, no, I was there before they were even cool.
Yeah, exactly. So. The Kickstarter's been going really well, and we've gotten a ton of support from people from it, and we're super excited about it.
You've funded. I mean, you've not only funded, you've funded and then some. I mean, you're sitting on $67,000, which
So we're hoping to hit 69,000 because that'll allow us to foil all of the God cards that come in the core set. And then anything after that. So then our other goals now, since we basically hit all of our stretch goals, is I will be punting various fruits.
I saw this. Now, what is this all about?
So I figured, it'd be something fun to do.
Because if this was in the UK, if you said you were punting various fruits, it means you're selling them.
Yeah. No. In the US, it means I'm kicking them.
Exactly. In the UK, it's like, all right, Chris Kluwe's punting fruit. Well, that's all right. You just go down the shop and say, "Do you want a banana, love?"
Yeah, exactly. So I figured it'd be something fun because, I mean, how many other Kickstarters are you going to back where the lead designer is going to kick a fruit or various fruits, and that was actually their job for 8 years, was to kick things really, really hard. So,
how far can this is going to be really weird. As somebody who's obviously aware of their physical attributes and stuff like that, how far do you think you could actually kick a lemon?
So that's going to be the interesting thing, because I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I think some of them will actually go probably like 30, 40 yards, and I think most of them will just explode.
You're just you can end up looking like you've been playing Nintendo Splatoon.
Oh yeah, no, it's just gonna be fruit juice everywhere.
But that's the idea. You can turn this into the next industry. You could be on like the shopping channel. Say, hi, I'm Chris Kluwe. Forget the Nutri mixer. You want the Chris Kluwe fruit smoothie boot. Just have you punting various different fruits, and then it's really easy. You just get the rubber scraper and you scrape it off your boot into your jar.
Jams for everyone.
Add some apple juice and you're ready to go.
Yeah. So,
you can get this now in 3 payments of $39.99.
Yeah, plus shipping and handling.
Exactly. Please note we knew 6 most major cards, MasterCard, credit card, and PayPal.
No refunds.
Some washed up guy going, I had an acting career before this kind of thing. And now I'm presenting Chris Kluwe's Nutri Foot.
Yeah.
So what we hope to get
great name,
up,
by the way.
This is recorded. If I come back in 6 months,
yeah, right.
And I'm watching the kind of the wrestling, and there's an advert in the middle, and I see you coming up and going, "Hi, I'm Chris Kluwe. I've got the Nutri Food. You're gonna hear me all the way from the UK going, that's come back. Just stole my idea, Lois.
Where's my royalties?
Where's my lawyer?"
Yeah, exactly.
So so you've got melon here. Is that Chris punts a cantaloupe?
Yeah. So that one's gonna. I think that one might actually go a pretty decent distance. And then if we hit our very last one, that's a personal watermelon, which is it's a bit smaller than a normal watermelon. It's I'd say it's larger than a softball but smaller than a soccer ball. So that one I think is just going to flat out just shatter everywhere.
How long did you spend deciding these? I mean, I can imagine you spending kind of like 3 hours working on stretch goals and then 5.5 hours working on the fruit.
Well, so essentially it really only took me about like 10 or 15 minutes because I wanted it to go in an ascending order, right, from smallest to largest. And then I was like, okay, what fruits do I have easily available from the grocery store, and what is not going to break my foot if I kick it?
I imagine that. You go to the doctor and he's like, I'm just going to have to check your medical insurance for this.
Right.
What was it you kicked? You're not covered for fruit kicking.
Yeah. I mean, if I'd put like a pineapple on there or something.
I think you just have to cancel. Your policy is going to be null and void. There's no way you're going to.
We're going to be covered
with this. Oh my goodness, this is such a tangent.
A tangerine.
So, you're funded. Does this mean? I mean, obviously, this Victory Point Games must be happy about this. Does this mean from their point of view that does this give you retail opportunities with you breaking the funding barrier, you reaching your targets? Does this allow you to then kind of push things forward?
Yeah, so I think the plan is right now is that they're going to do a print run of 5,000 units, I want to say, of which I think about, obviously depending how many Kickstarter backers we get, but it should be around, if we hit the watermelon stage, that's 2,000 units to Kickstarter backers. So if we do 2,000 to backers, then that's an additional 3,000 that we can either sell through distributors or Victory Point can sell directly through their website.
Yeah.
And then we have 3 mini expansions planned after that will sell either through Victory Point or through distributors. The mini expansions aren't covered under the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter only gets you the core set, but we planned it out to where essentially this full thing will be the core set, then 3 mini expansions, and then me and my team, we already have plans for like 5 years worth of expansions. So there's lots more Twilight of the Gods waiting to happen.
Really, really good. So if somebody goes ahead, because you're going to be opening up late pledges, which is one of the reasons that we're having the conversation as well. No point in us spending kind of 20 minutes talking about it and then saying, and you've missed it.
Yep. Sorry.
We'll try and put this out in 24 hours, but no. I mean, there's going to be late pledges in there. So, what do people? I mean, when people kind of open the box, they've got enough. How many cards do you say they've got? 200 cards for the base.
Yes.
The base box. So that is a deck for each of your four friends, or me to play by myself.
Yeah, so the base box is 200 cards separated into 450 card decks, and then you get the 4 starter gods, and then the additional 12 gods that we unlocked that were stretch goals, and that's 3 for each faction. And those essentially give you different ways to construct decks, because your god also gives you a 1 per game deity power, where almost kind of like Hearthstone, you have like the different class abilities.
No, I hear you.
Yeah. So we have that for our gods, but it's not like once per turn thing. It's just a once per game thing, where it won't outright win you the game most of the time, but it will definitely give you an advantage if you use it at the right time. So it's up to you to recognize when is the right time.
Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. Is there other games? Because I mean, talking about your past, obviously, we've not even talked about the World of Warcraft stuff. That you were involved in. We've not touched on any of this stuff. This has kind of been like, folk are going to go and look at us. They'll check back, and they'll go, "You did all this stuff and you didn't even talk about it." And it's like, no, we're talking about the Kickstarter. I'm not going to talk about World of Warcraft or anything else, because we don't have the time. And I know less about World of Warcraft than I know about the NFL. So that I've done a really good job of looking stupid enough as it is. I don't want to make that kind of even worse. But going forward, I mean, you going through the creative process, are there kind of like another 4 or 5 games sitting there that you're thinking, well, when this is going out, this is going to go live, is there another project kind of sitting there in the back burner that you'd also like to put out there?
Yeah, so there actually is. So Twilight of the Gods is hopefully going to take up the majority of my time for ideally the next like 15 or 20 years. That's the dream. But
unless of course the juicy foot,
yeah,
foot.
right,
There you
yeah,
go.
and
That's
then-
it. That's the name.
Yeah,
We've done it. Unless of
the
course
juicy
that
foot.
takes off as well.
Yeah, if that takes off, I mean, all bets are off. But
It'd just be pictures of you and me standing in front of really tall
Right.
things.
Yeah,
Look what we
exactly.
bought today.
But yeah, I do actually have another project that I've been working on with a friend of mine. It's a board game, very very much mixing the idea of cooperative and competitive play, in that you want to try to win the game cooperatively, but there are also lots of ways to screw over the other people if you so choose, and there is a win condition to win the game by yourself. But the other
cool.
people can team up against you to try to prevent you from doing that.
All
Because I love betrayal type games, so like Battlestar Galactica and games like that.
Yeah.
Where someone's, or was it Shadows over Camelot, where someone's the traitor. So in this one, I want to make a game where there doesn't have to be a traitor, but if you want to be the traitor, then you absolutely can. Because then it brings into that dynamic of now. Yeah, it's not people playing against the game; it's people playing against each other. And like that's, for me, I think that's the huge thing that I love in games, is when you're not playing against the odds in your deck, or you're not playing against the odds on the field. You're trying to outwit the other person, right? You're trying to recognize what they would try to do in a certain situation, and you're trying to make the better play, because that's really what's fun, is now you're actually playing against the other person.
It sounds like you've got this all planned out.
Yeah. So
I mean, in your mind, it sounds like, I know exactly what I'm doing next, and this is where we're going to be. This is where we're going to be going. The campaign will fund. There'll be chances for people to go ahead and kind of get other pledges. The future project sounds something to keep an eye on. Is this where you're going to be heading? I mean, have you, or are you now kind of come full circle? And you said this, so I'm not being nasty to you. But you said
no.
the nerd.
Oh yeah, no,
played
I'm totally a
games.
nerd.
You know what I mean? It's like, can you believe that he called Chris Kluwe a nerd?
Yeah, sports was a way to pay the bills, but this is what I love doing. But yeah, no, it's definitely something where if I can develop games as a job for the rest of my life, like that would be awesome, because I've gotten so much enjoyment from playing games, and I think a well-designed game, it allows you to not just have fun, but you also learn a little bit about who you are and what you value, and just how you approach different situations.
Yeah,
no. Like
absolutely.
That's one of the big things I want to do with Twilight of the Gods, and that's why we used philosophies as our factions. Is that if you play an aggression deck, like that's how you approach the situation. That's how you think this is the best way, for you to win in the situation. And you can mix and match from all the different factions. Like our resource system is color agnostic. Like it's not tied to any one color.
Yeah.
As long as you have a resource, you can play the cards. And so that allows the people, who are playing the game to really construct a deck that reflects who they are, as opposed to being, forced into any one specific choice, which I think is really cool, because now it's a representation of you out there on the field, via what cards you choose to represent yourself.
Do you think, and this is maybe a kind of a question you've already answered in your own head, do you think you would ever go and do like a kind of an NFL type card game or board game or something like that? I know there's like your Blood Bowls and Guild Balls of this world, but if you thought, well, would you ever consider doing that, or is that something you would kind of just leave behind?
Well, I think it's interesting because the NFL, so American football is at its core, it's an abstraction of war, right? Like you have these two different sides. They're fighting for territory, and then eventually one side either succeeds or loses. And so I think essentially we've created that with Twilight of the Gods, where it's you have two gods. They're going to war. They're they're trying to defeat each other, and really it's just what's the coat of paint that you're putting on top, right? Like, what's the aesthetic that appeals?
Yeah.
Because in the NFL, it's okay, you're wearing shoulder pads and tight pants and you have a football.
Sounds like my Saturday night.
Right. And then, like, in something like chess, it's okay, you have, these little figures that are moving on this 8x8 board. And, for checkers, it's, same thing, but it's even more simplistic. Like for Go, it's the two little stones. But at its most fundamental, at its most basic, all of these games are about one side versus another side, and which one will win within the rules of the game that both sides have agreed upon.
Cool. So, if people on listening tonight want to keep an eye on the campaign, they've listened tonight and thought, this guy's, Chris is a fascinating person to talk to, and you have been. What's the easiest? How would you find you on the interwebs? What's the easiest place to find out about what you're up to and yourself if they want to?
So the easiest way to find me is on Twitter. I am at Chris Warcraft because I played a lot of World of Warcraft.
Is that from when you had your first kind of original Twitter account and you went, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, so it's funny because this was back when I was playing in the NFL, and the local sports radio station said, you should get on Twitter. Yeah. And I was like, why would I ever want to get on Twitter? And then
there's a lot of people asking that question at the moment,
right? So eventually I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to get on Twitter. Like, all right, and now I need to figure out what my handle is going to be. And then at the same time, that was back when Chad Johnson, he was a receiver for the Bengals. He had legally changed his name to Chad Ochocinco because he wanted it to say that on his jersey because his number was 85.
All right, okay, there you go.
Yeah, and so the local radio station was like, you should change your name to Chris Warcraft because you're always playing World of Warcraft.
There you go.
And I'm like, I'm not going to do that because my wife would kill me.
Exactly.
But that sounds like a great
walked in
Twitter
with a bunch
handle.
of roses and go, well, hello, Mrs. Warcraft. And she's
right?
like, what?
Yeah. What just happened? Like,
you're only allowed to communicate with me through your lawyer now.
Yeah. Divorce proceedings are going. But,
I'm going and I'm taking the magic cards with me. Oh, no, not the magic cards.
No. I'll change it back. I'll change it. But yeah, I was like, okay, well, no, that could be a cool Twitter handle. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just call myself Chris Warcraft on Twitter. And stuck. And if people want to follow, chat with me, that's where I'm at. Mm-hmm. For the game, you can either go to totggame.com or Victory Point Games, their website. If you just Google Victory Point Games, it'll be like the first
we'll put links. We'll put links in. I always say we put links in the show notes, so that means we've got notes to show. So we'll do that as well. We'll put Victory Point Games. We'll put your Twitter handle. Well, also, I take it that the current campaign is going to be on the same kind of URL. So if we put the Twilight of the Gods kind of Twitter link, Kickstarter link even, then it's going to lead through because you're kind of, as you said, you're going to kind of keep the pledges open afterwards.
Yeah. And then if people need to, they can contact Victory Point Games too, and they'll work with you to help you get situated with that.
Good. And our Victory Point, are they going to be selling? Are they going to be going forward? Are they going to be selling it directly, or are they just going to be distributing it for you?
They'll be selling it directly as well. So
awesome.
Once the game actually does come out, you can just order it straight from their website.
And for a standard box, if I wanted to get in and I said this sounds great, how much is it going to cost me?
I think our price is $39.99.
Right,
and
cool.
So essentially, if you want to get in with like three friends, it's $10 each, and then you each get a deck.
That's nothing, isn't it? That's
it's
really nothing.
Especially compared to like Magic.
Let's not go like Magic. I'm just, what are you doing? Well, how many kidneys you got?
2.
you need 50% of the kidneys. You can live a natural, normal life, and we can get 52 packs for that kidney.
Right? Yeah, you can get half a Black Lotus.
Right. Okay. I don't know how good your kidneys are. So we'll put the notes out there. If you want to follow Chris on Twitter, go to Chris Warcraft. If you want to keep a kind of an eye on what we are doing, we are all over the interwebs as well. You can find us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards. We're on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. We're on Instagram at We're Not Wizards. So I really should post some more pictures. You can email us, magic@we'renotwizards.com or .co.uk. Listen, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your time. And there's been nonsense in the middle with the fruit thing, which is just, it's made my day. But no, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and spending it talking to us about everything cardboard and the likes. There are two things to do. And then the first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Chris?
I don't think we're wizards.
No, we're definitely not wizards. We punt wizards 50 yards when we see them.
Exactly.
You're going to make that boy feel like a cantaloupe. Take that, you magic. And I suppose the last thing is to say goodbye. So again, thank you, Chris, for your time. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope you've had some fun as well. But it's a goodbye from Chris.
Yep, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's been fantastic. And it's a goodbye from me. Stay safe, play your cards right, and have a look at this Kickstarter campaign, even if you are a late pledger, because it looks an awful lot of fun. But until then, bye for now.